We are live on your DSTV, channel 421, GoTV 144. This is Joy News Prime. Our headlines this hour: minority in parliament demand immediate action from government on the demolition of the Bulgarian embassy in Ghana, which they say could destroy the diplomatic relationship between the two countries.
This is unacceptable, and this can sever ties between Ghana and Bulgaria and its other foreign allies.
Also, President Akufo-Addo admits the country faces harsh economic conditions, but remains optimistic about the recovery.
The difficulties that all of us are going through now are not things that we need to have to emphasize and reiterate. It's obvious, and the source of it is also something that all of us know.
We'll hear more from him and speak to an economist. Also here on Joy News Prime, ECG workers allege the company faces bankruptcy. They're demanding the immediate removal of the managing director.
The company has never been in good shape ever since it took over. Okay. If a president thought it wise to assign you a responsibility, it presupposes that things are not going well, and therefore you do what is right. The company has gone from bad to worse.
At 8 p.m., I'll hand over to Charles and Gary for Prime Business and Prime Sports. Charles, what should we look forward to?
Well, in business, economists are predicting a hike in the policy rate, which is the rate at which government lends to commercial banks, even as the BOG has a meeting in the coming days.
While I expect a policy rate hike, I do not think it will be necessary to immediately it will immediately arrest the inflation trend we are seeing. It might continue for a while until some structural interventions are put in place to increase supply of especially.
And coming up in sports, Gary.
Nigeria is ready, and some people are still looking for a venue. That is from a Nigerian football legend.
We are at the Monshood Abiola Stadium. We are all ready. Look how beautiful the pitch is. Look how beautiful the stadium is. We are all ready. But some people are still looking for a venue. Some people are under confusion. You know who I'm talking about, We are 360, baby. Ha 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 ha. Hallelujah.
The trolling has already started. You don't want to miss the details with Gary at 8:30 p.m. This is the home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. I'm Ernest Minu. Hello again, thanks for choosing us. The minority in parliament says it is disappointed over the seeming nonchalance of government in addressing the demolition of the Bulgarian embassy in Accra. The alleged officials of the embassy were thrown out by land guards before the demolition, and there's currently a private development on the disputed land. According to the minority, the Bulgarian government has been using diplomatic channels in an attempt to resolve the issue, but without success. Addressing the media in Parliament, Minority Leader Haruna Iddrisu described the act as unacceptable, arguing the situation could sever ties between Ghana and Bulgaria.
Another diplomatic blunder. President Akufo-Addo is our key diplomat, and he has a duty to keep our relationship with our foreign friends and neighbors well. My understanding is they have gone to demolish the Bulgaria embassy in Ghana. This is unacceptable, and this can sever ties between Ghana and Bulgaria and its other foreign allies. We just don't want to believe that all this is happening under the watch of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Former foreign minister, former attorney general, he can't respect the Vienna Convention on diplomacy. We are disappointed.
Well, not on MP and minority spokesperson on the Foreign Affairs Committee, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, has joined us on the phone with more on this story. Mr. Ablakwa, we are grateful for your time here on Joy News Prime. This happened in 2017. Why is it coming up right now?
Well, thank you very much, Ernest. Good evening to you and all our distinguished viewers. So it's been a series of violations. You are right that it began in 2017. However, you notice that it started with an eviction, then they were harassed out of the place, then it got to a demolition. Then after the demolition, we are now seeing the mastermind construct his own property without any permit. Now, all this while, we had thought that matters would be resolved behind the scenes. So there was a lot of backroom diplomacy. The government officials had been apologizing to the Bulgarians, trying to assuage their pain and assuring them that they will get to the bottom of it. But things kept getting worse by the day. And we had no option now, seeing how fast the illegal occupant is building. It appears to be an apartment, construction going on, building day and night. And the foreign ministry has not been forthcoming with a convincing response, some remedy for the Bulgarians. Remember that in 2020, a similar thing happened to the Nigerians. The Nigerian High Commission, property belonging to the Nigerian High Commission in Ghana, was demolished under similar circumstances. As we speak, Ernest, the Ghanaian taxpayer is being made to pay for the rehabilitation, the new construction for the Nigerians. The perpetrators have been left off the hook. They have not been surcharged. They are not the ones paying for it. It is you and I, it's the Ghanaian people who are already under excruciating hardship. It's our taxes that is being used to pay for the Nigerians. So this time, we decided that we will go all out and expose, because you see, these wrongdoings will continue when the real perpetrators are shielded, when they are masked and they hide behind anonymity. They feel emboldened, and others would want to follow the same modus operandi. That is why today the NDC caucus in Parliament decided to put out all the facts and to call out the government, and to also let the perpetrators know that we know about their deeds, we know the conspiracy, we know about how they managed to forge documents. Look, the Bulgarians have a valid lease for 50 years, beginning July 1983. Mm-hmm. That lease will expire in 2033. We are not there. Mm. So how on earth? And you see, the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, 1961, is very, very clear. Embassy properties are inviolable. You cannot intrude. You cannot trespass. You have absolutely no business. Indeed, if you read Article 22 of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, 1961, we, that is the host country, must provide security and make sure that they are safe. So what has happened is really an act of aggression, and as the honorable leader of the NDC caucus in Parliament said, this really has affected our relations with the Bulgarians. It can sever ties. It can lead to escalating tension. And if they decide to also retaliate, I mean, you can imagine what will happen. And remember that this is an EU member country. If their friends and allies also decide to take a serious view of this, particularly as this is the second time this is happening in 2 years.
Yes, I mean, and that definitely will have some consequences. But because you're ranking on this committee, the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament, and taking very keen interest, you referred to those individuals behind this action. Do you mind giving us some details as to who exactly is behind this and what you want authorities to do about this?
From our unimpeachable investigation, it is clear that one, Dr. Yao Edu Ampoma, the former deputy CEO of COCOBOD, who is currently the president's appointee at the NDPC, the National Development Planning Commission. He is the mastermind. he and his collaborators, we intend smoking them out. And we are not going to, Ghana is not a banana republic.
And when you say you intend smoking them out, this is going to come before the committee in Parliament. Is that what you're saying?
We are filing motion for a probe. We want a full-scale parliamentary inquiry into the circumstances. How did he come by all those forged documents? Where did he get the power from? Where did he get the audacity to violate the Vienna Convention, to invade an embassy property, to pull it down, and to reconstruct? So we want to understand all the steps, and we want him to be searched. This time, we are not going to allow the Ghanaian taxpayer to be made to pay the compensation and the reconstruction, the rehabilitation for the Bulgarians, as we allowed for the Nigerians.
Sir Blacko, I'm grateful for your time here on Joy News Prime. I'm grateful that you could join us to provide some more insight on this developing story. But let's go to the phone lines again and speak to the Greater Accra Regional Lands Officer, the Greater Accra boss of the Lands Commission. He joins us on the line, Timothy Anyidoho, the acting, regional Director of the Lands Commission. Mr. Anyidoho, I'm grateful that you could join us here on Joy News Prime. Mr. Blacko referred to the lease that the Bulgarian embassy actually does have, which expires in 2033. We have seen a copy of a notice that the Lands Commission actually sent to these private developers, ordering them to stop work. What happened since then?
Well, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity. As I indicated when I was contacted, this is a matter that the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, under particularly the Deputy Minister, Benito Usubi, is investigating and looking at. As you can notice, there was some notice pasted or posted on site this morning, and it clearly explains what the Commission is doing in respect of that particular parcel of land, in recognition of the subsistent interest of the Bulgarian embassy, and also to give a notice to the developer of sale. That's the action that has been taken this morning.
And seeing that this has become an issue that has even developed in Parliament, what next steps are you going to take in order to address the situation?
We believe that the notice for the developer to stop development will carry out and ensure that that notice is complied with. As you said, it's a matter before Parliament, and our Honourable Minister, Honourable Gina Paul, will be there, I'm sure, to deal with the matter. I must indicate that the Foreign Affairs has been involved in this matter for some time back. The Commission itself has investigated and is taking steps to ensure that the country doesn't enter any diplomatic route.
Mr. Anyidoho, thank you very much. That's the acting regional boss of the Lands Commission, Timothy Anyidoho. And let me indicate that the individual that Mr. Blacko alleges is behind this is actually, Joy News has not independently verified whether or not the former Cocoa Board director is indeed behind this. We'll run our checks. Once we do, we'll bring you more in our subsequent bulletins. This is Joy News Prime. President Akufo-Addo has admitted the country is currently facing tough economic times. The Ghana cedi continues to depreciate against major trading currencies and has been ranked the worst performing currencies among top African currencies. Meanwhile, fuel prices continue to rise as a result of the weak cedi. But the president says he's optimistic of a timely recovery. He spoke during an interaction with delegation from Nigeria's FNB Bank at the Jubilee House.
The difficulties that all of us are going through now are not things that we need to have to emphasize and reiterate. It's obvious. And the source of it is also something that all of us know. It's having differing impacts on the different economies and countries. But the root causes of it are well known. And there are matters that we have to also resolve together. I believe that at the end of the day,
Well, the president also noted the banking sector cleanup has left a resilient banking sector to support economic growth. This comment comes at a time when ratings agency Fitch has downgraded two leading local banks.
And a strong financial system. I'm sure you must have followed the efforts that my government did to try and strengthen, sanitize and clean up the financial sector here in Ghana. When we came into office, the financial sector was in considerable difficulties. Some people go forward to say almost on the brink of collapse, but very harsh but necessary measures had to be taken to bring it back to sanity. I think that today we are satisfied that the financial and banking system is on much stronger foundations in Ghana today than it was 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. And that gives us a lot of hope that the means for financing the development of our country is nearer at hand than it has ever been in our history.
Let's do some more on this. Dr. Patrick Isumin is an economist at the University of Ghana Business School. He joins us on the line. Doc, we're grateful for your time here on Joy News Prime. So far, the central bank has not announced any major intervention to arrest the free fall. Are you surprised at this?
No, maybe not. So, first of all, let me greet your viewers. So, in times like this, we will probably expect that the Bank of Ghana to step in and pump more USD onto the market. But I don't think it is in a position to do that, at least on a sustainable basis at this point. We don't have a lot of, at the moment, I think our reserve position is quite strong. We have, at the last reading, at the last report by the Bank of Ghana, we have over just about 4.5 months of import cover.
Yeah.
But you notice that this year we are not going to be able to go and do a Eurobond to bring in more dollars. And it will take a while before the cocoa loans, which will bring additional pushing. So if the Bank of Ghana starts pushing more dollars on the market now, I don't think it can sustain it. It will only be a matter of time before it will, it will run out of reserves. On the other hand, I think we all know that the Monetary Policy Committee has pushed this meeting for March forward. It's currently meeting this week, and it's widely expected that it will probably raise the monetary policy rate to help sort of stem the flow of the depreciation.
Indeed. But there's also the other suggestion, which is that government may not be interfering or may not be moving to introduce new measures because of the windfall it may be getting from trading on the international market. We've seen the prices of crude go up on the international market, and that may be raking in some more revenue for government. If that is true, how sustainable is it?
Well, I think I'm not sure that that is really the case. I mean, it is only a temporary situation. I think the crude oil price peaked 130 sometime last week. We've seen that it started coming down. In any case, the government couldn't have planned on the windfall gain. I mean, this is not something that you can bet on. But at the same time, if that was a strategy, it's a dangerous strategy because consumers are paying very high prices at the pump. So if we decided to do that, I don't think that would be a good strategy. I just think that at the moment we don't really have a lot of means to intervene in the short term. I think the CD problem is really a structural problem, and it will require a medium-term solution to address that. I don't think the government is necessarily interested in enjoying those windfalls. It's timely at this point because we are not able to raise the revenues we want. But I'm not sure that would be the reason why we haven't seen an intervention yet. I think in the short term, we are just not in a position to intervene.
Great. But whilst we look at the medium to long term, there's also the downgrade of the local banks to, at least we know for now, that must be a problem that certainly would complicate matters, because if we are not able to borrow at a favorable rate on the international market, we need the local banks to support with liquidity. If the banks are also being downgraded, that will definitely pose a challenge to the economy. How must this be addressed?
So I think generally the banks are in a much stronger than they were some time back. especially before the financial sector cleanup. If you look even at the recent numbers that the Bank of Ghana has put out in terms of the asset quality, the banks are doing relatively well. In terms of non-performing loans, it's been consistently coming down. It did rise a little bit in the middle of last year, but since then it seems to be on a downward trend. So I think generally the banking sector is relatively strong, and I largely agree with what the president said. Since we did the cleanup, the banking sector has relatively strong. Yes, a couple of the banks have been downgraded, but you know, when you read some of the reasons for the downgrade, part of it was that it was tied to the fact that the sovereign debt of Ghana has been downgraded, and also you do see that some of them are expected to rely on their parent banks for some support, and there are question marks over that. So I wouldn't really say that the downgrade of those two banks in particular means that the banking sector is weak. I mean, the times that we are in, it appears that the banking sector is relatively strong. But if the economy continues to weaken, that may not persist for long.
Very well. Thank you very much for joining us. That's Dr. Patrick Sumin. He's an economist with the University of Ghana Business School. Now, the Public Utility Workers Union, PUW, is demanding the immediate removal of the managing director for the Electricity Company of Ghana, Kwame Agyeman-Badu. According to the workers, Mr. Agyeman-Badu has exhibited a high level of incompetence which could run the company into bankruptcy. Speaking at a press conference Tuesday, the General Secretary of PUW, Michael Odumata Nyantechi, enumerated additional reasons for their demand.
Divisional Executive Committee of the ECG Senior and Junior Staff Union of the Public Utilities Workers Union of TUC Ghana met on Tuesday, 22nd February 2022 in the conference room of the Hall of Trade Unions and deliberated on certain pertinent issues affecting the operations and industrial harmony of ECG. The said meeting deliberated on the continuous stay in office of Mr. Kwame Agyeman-Badu as Managing Director after attaining 60 years on February 17, 2022, in the light of the negative effects his tenure as Managing Director has brought on the company. The deficiency in the managerial competence of Mr. Kwame Agyeman-Badu had manifested in the following results: acute shortage of meters. Some customers have paid for new service for over 6 months and still waiting. Lack of electrical cables for key maintenance and service connections. Shortage of electrical poles for new service and repair works. Absence of basic office materials such as common stationery is affecting the smooth running of the company. Demonstration of one-man show type of leadership coupled with disrespect and virtual abuse of some directors and general managers. Favoritism in certain appointments, which is destroying the spirit of competence and merit within the company. Delays in payment of deductions from staff salaries for mutual fund, credit union, and other welfare contributions. Ladies and gentlemen, accordingly, the meeting passed a resolution to the effect that Mr. Kwame Agyeman-Badu should not be given any contract extension and forwarded same to the Board of Directors for their attention and necessary action.
In an interview with Joy News, National Chairman of the Junior Staff Union of ECG, Samuel Tete Adbeto, said the MD's incompetence has resulted in the shortage of meters throughout the country.
It has never been in good shape ever since he took over. Okay. If a president thought it wise to assign you a responsibility, it presupposes that things are not going well. and therefore you do what is right. And the company, in the words of one of the board of directors said, the company has gone from bad to worse. This is a statement from one of the board of directors. A company going from bad to worse under the tenureship of the MD is not a good reflection of the organization. And we are the major stakeholders, for God's sake, of this company. The president has said that we should not be spectators by a citizen, not only a citizen, by a responsible citizen. I mean, how can you imagine customers paying for meter for several months without having the meter? There is no pole, there is no meter card. A4 sheet, which is an administrative material for which we can work with. For the first time in the history of this company, we don't have it. When you have a group of young people who are willing and motivated to work, only for the company to be going from a bad to worse, I don't think it's good for us to sit down and allow the company to be run down. You understand? We are major stakeholders. And so, like
Let's interrogate this further. We're joined by the General Secretary of POOL, Michael Nyantakyi. He joins us via Zoom. Mr. Nyantakyi, I'm grateful that you could join us. The record of the ECG is known. The company has been saddled with debt and a myriad of challenges over the years. Why is the MD suddenly solely responsible for these issues or these challenges?
Yeah, good evening, and good evening to your viewers and cherished listeners. I'm not sure we have indicated that he is the cause of all the problems facing the company. But the point we are making is that over the years, the company has experienced a number of challenges. And it's expected that when you are appointed to a position of such high trust and responsibility, the expectation is that you will come to solve some of the problems or ameliorate the situation. Unfortunately, during the tenure of the managing director, the situation had grown from bad to worse. And that is why looking at the trajectory that the company is going through, it is a bit alarming. And many workers who have spent so many years could not just sit down and see and watch the company just drifting virtually into a cliff. So it is the worsening situation that has precipitated this call. Earlier last year, a similar call was made, and a lot of stakeholder engagement. There were intimation that, well, the man has just a few more months to reach the compulsory retirement age. Why not give him the second chance to see whether he can change some of the things we are complaining about?
And so have you formally petitioned the appointing authority on this issue? Have you formally drawn the attention to the issues that you're raising?
Yes, in the proper governance principle. So we sent a petition to the board of directors, and about 3 weeks ago, we also sent another petition again to the board of directors. But unfortunately, the response from the board had not been very encouraging, and the apparent silence is also what is making the workers feel so apprehensive.
And so since the board has not responded in a way that you deem fit, what will be your next line of action?
Well, we believe that this even press conference that we had engaged in today is one way of letting the appointing authority know that there are issues within the company. Sometimes certain official records may not portray all the facts, and we believe that the current president in a number of instances have urged citizens to be not just docile, but very active, to be constructive. And we believe that, yes, the sole responsibility is that of the president. But we are only raising these concerns to bring to the attention of the appointing authority that things are getting worse and there is the need for a serious look to be taken of the situation of ECG. And so we are optimistic that the president who is the appointing authority will consider the issues we've raised. We are not giving any ultimatum to government or to the appointing authority. We know that is the president's prerogative. We are only using this mechanism to draw the president's attention to some issues which might not have come through the official correspondence.
Very well. Let's see how this pans out. I'm grateful that you could join us. That's Michael Nyantakyi. He is General Secretary of POO. And today, the ECG has been embarking on some major disconnection exercise and revenue mobilization. We'll bring that to you in Prime Business later with Charles Aite. But as we speak about utility, Joy Research Desk has been doing some data crunching on the revenues realized from the price stabilization and recovery levy since 2017. Many of you have been calling for some cushioning because of the rising prices of fuel. Isaac Kofi of our research desk joins me in the studio. Kofi, tell us about your findings on how much is accrued into the fund.
So, Ernest, let's start with the rising cost of fuel prices. So we ended last year, that is December, last year 2021, with an average fuel price of 6 cedis, 80 pesos in December 2021. And as we speak now, as of today, you could find some OMCs charging as high as 8 cedis, 49 pesos per liter of fuel. So if you should do the math, that should be around, close to 25% rise from the figure in December 2021 to what we have.
Just within a period of 3 months.
Exactly, Ernest.
And we are told that this could actually go up from the 16th of March.
Exactly, to probably 10
or 11 per liter.
So we've been studying, how much government has been realizing from the price stabilization and recovery levy and since 2017. But before that, the price stabilization and recovery levy was introduced to cushion consumers or to stabilize fuel prices for consumers and also to subsidize premix fuel for our
Exactly, and we have seen, we've heard from fishermen from Jamestown, for instance, speak to Maxwell about shortages in premix fuel, and some of them saying the prices are even exorbitant as a result of some of these developments.
You recall that at the latter part of last year, government had to suspend the price stabilization and recovery levy, and just this year, February, that it was
restored.
Exactly. So if you buy fuel, then it means you are paying 16 pesos per liter of fuel, contribute to the price stabilization and recovery levy, and if you are buying diesel, that will be 14 pesos per liter, and LPG will be 14 pesos per kilo as well. Now, let's look at how the amount government has realized from this levy from 2017 to 2021. Now, in 2017, government was able to raise an amount of 345.9 million Ghana cedis in 2017. And then this rose significantly in 2018, where we had the highest, 548.3 million Ghana cedis in 2018, and 2019 was not so good for us. We dropped from 549 million Ghana cedis.
That was a huge drop.
Exactly, to 125.4 million Ghana cedis, and then back to the normal, amounts you've been raising in 2020, where we had 484 million Ghana cedis, and in 2021. This is just the first 3 quarters of 2021, where we've been able to raise an amount of 306 million Ghana cedis. So in total, if you should add from 2017 to what we were able to collect in 2017 to
the first quarter of 2021,
the first 3 quarters of 2021, that should be sum up to an amount of 1.8 billion Ghana cedis in the period under review.
The first 3 quarters of 2021.
Exactly. So from 2017 to the first 3 quarters, cumulatively, that should give us an amount of 1.8 billion Ghana cedis. And this amount is supposed to cushion, consumers, and then also be used as a means to stabilize, and then subsidize premix fuel. Now, we've also been looking at the taxes and margins on the price build-up. remember just on Top Story that we've been confirmed that some, agents are calling for scrapping of some of the taxes.
And we understand that the NPA, for instance, has made recommendations as well to government. We'll see what government will make of their recommendation. But this is it.
Yeah, so we've been counting. There's about 12, tax items, and if you should sum all of them, it means that every liter of fuel you buy, you're paying as high as 2 cedis, 65 pesos per liter of fuel as taxes and margins. Now, if we should just look at taxes alone. Okay. So taxes alone, the first one we looked at was taxes and margins. That's 2 cedis, 65 pesos. Now, if you just look at taxes alone, we have the Energy Debt Recovery Levy, the Road Fund Levy, Energy Fund Levy, Price Stabilization and Recovery Levy, Sanitation and Pollution Levy, Energy Sector Recovery Levy, all this amounting to 1 cedi, 88 pesos per liter of fuel that you buy.
I see. So it certainly, goes to buttress the point that people are making, some of these analysts, and we've heard from the minority on the Mines and Energy Committee, that if government does something about this, it will further reduce the prices at the pumps.
Imagine we are able to scrap, let's say, 1 cedi, 88 pesos, that will be able
go down significantly for us.
For
Kofi, thank you very much for bringing us those details. You're watching Joy News Prime with me, Ernest Meno. We're taking a short break. When we return, we'll bring you some more stories. Please don't go away. President Akufo-Addo is demanding the strengthening of the existing African Union protocols on good governance to sanction civilians who manipulate their constitutions to extend their stay in power. For him, the condemnation and sanctions imposed on military juntas that overthrow elected governments may not achieve much unless the civilian heads of state are held accountable for their inactions that provide grounds for the overthrow. Addressing the African Union Security Council dialogue on constitutional changes on the continent, the president also described as dangerous and unacceptable the desire of a few to use shortcuts to government to exercise power without limit.
The reappearance of coups in Africa, in all its forms and manifestations, must be condemned by all, since it seriously undermines our collective bid to rid the continent of the menace of instability and unconstitutional changes in government, as currently defined by the frameworks enshrined in the Lomé Declaration, the Africa Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance, and other important regional and continental instruments. Unconstitutional regime changes retard a country's growth. As much as the drivers are largely domestic, the international dimension cannot be overlooked. Foreign involvement in fomenting unconstitutional changes, often in favor of repressive governments, foreign economic interests, and other would-be geopolitical benefits are contributory factors. Some foreign entities regard coups in Africa as a means of enhancing their regional ambitions. As such, they engage in all sorts of disinformation campaigns in a bid to discourage the authority of democratically elected governments and instigate opposition protests against incumbents. In implementing existing continental and regional instruments and protocols, defaulting member states are condemned and suspended from the activities of continental and regional bodies, and individual coup makers are sanctioned. However, the reality is these sanctions have not been applied uniformly. While we're quick to sanction military coup leaders, civilians who achieve similar ends.
The minority in parliament says there's no justification for the continuous closure of the country's land borders. Ghana's land borders have been closed since March 2020 at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic in the country and has remained shut since then. There have been several protests in some border towns in the Western and Volta regions demanding the reopening of the borders. The indigents in these towns say the border closure has made it impossible for them to trade effectively, depriving them of their source of livelihood. But Minority Leader Haruna Iddrisu says the borders must be open now.
One and the first will be our call on President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the President of the Republic of Ghana, supported by his Minister for Health and Minister for Interior, to take urgent practical steps for the reopening of Ghana's land borders to allow for free flow of persons and goods across ECOWAS and the rest of the world. Post-COVID, we are not out of the woods yet, but we want to see a return to normalcy with the movement of goods and services through our borders. And therefore, whatever proactive measures government needs to take, there can be no justification for the continuous closure of Ghana's land borders. Therefore, as a minority, our primary concern this afternoon is to call on the President, as chair of ECOWAS, to do that which is needful to give meaning to the resolutions he so chaired for ECOWAS to pass.
He's also demanding that the Health Ministry makes free COVID-19 testing for citizens at the airport. According to the Tamale South MP, the current $150 charge is a ripoff.
Is the fleecing and ripoff of Ghanaians and international travelers into our country in the name of COVID charges at the Kotoka International Airport by Frontiers Health Services must be reviewed and reviewed in earnest by government. Nowhere in the world does anybody pay $150 for a COVID test. The Honorable Ablakwa returned from Romania. I was in Doha, Qatar, and the least you pay is $50 US. At most probably highest elsewhere will be 100. So for non-Ghanaians to be compelled to continue to pay $150 US in the name of COVID tests, which COVID test arrangement procurement is questionable and raises questions of us using COVID as a money-making enterprise instead of a public health epidemic that needs our collective efforts to combat and to deal with. We do not think that continuously persons traveling to Ghana from abroad must be made to pay $150 US. We consider that a ripoff. We consider that prohibitively high, and even $50 for Ghanaian nationals is high. At best, it should be free for Ghanaian citizens. What is it?
This is John News Prime. Up next is World News. And on Showbiz today, as part of our Ghana Man series, we put a spotlight on Michael Elliott Kwabena Ochre Darko, popularly known as Obrafour, a Ghanaian hip-life musician and rapper. Obrafour has a unique style of, tree rapping and storytelling. His popular hit and debut album, Pemuka, for which he won 3 awards during the 2000 edition of the Ghana Music Awards, is arguably one of the best-selling albums in Ghana. There's more in this report.
Hello everyone, welcome to Business Prime with me, Charles Ait here. Tonight, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana begins its quarterly meeting tomorrow to decide a policy rate. Even before this particular meeting, economists and analysts are projecting an increase in the rate.
Policy rate hike, I do not think it will be necessary to immediately it will immediately arrest the inflation trend we are seeing. It might continue for a while until some structural interventions are put in place to increase supply of especially.
Also, almost 50% of Ghanaians surveyed won't use mobile money if the e-levy is implemented. We'll hear from the Center for Economics, Finance and Inequality Studies on their recent research on this matter. Plus, French automobile giant Peugeot to officially launch its vehicle assembling plant this month at Tema in the Greater Accra region.
We've seen in other countries like South Africa, like in Morocco, like in Egypt, once the demand picks up, capacity can follow very quickly. There's nothing more we want.
We have all these and more coming up shortly. Do stay with us. Now, even before the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana begins its quarterly meeting from tomorrow, analysts are forecasting a 1 percentage point increase in the policy rate to 15.5%. Now, this is due to the rise in inflation, current surge in oil prices triggered by the Russia-Ukraine war and the depreciation of the cedi, which have been pivotal to the rise in inflationary expectations. Economists with data bank Courage Boti spoke on Business Live.
At 14.5 alluded to the fact that they acknowledge that the exchange rate pressures would mount. They acknowledge that petroleum prices will surge, and that was incorporated into the 100 basis point hike in November. But what has turned out between January now, and then it's a trend that would likely continue, because so long as the Russia-Ukraine conflict continues and it affects supply on the market, we would still see pressures from the exchange rate and of course the period. In fact, the main driver of the February 2022 inflation print tells us that we could be up for maybe even further increases in inflation going forward. Unfortunately, and less of demand pressures really. And so while I expect a policy rate hike, I do not think it will be necessary to immediately it will immediately arrest the inflation trend we are seeing. It might continue for a while until some structural interventions are put in place to increase supply of especially food on the market. There will be some disinflation from the Q4, as my model tells me, but it might not be enough to revert inflation back into this, the target band by end of year.
Okay, there are some analysts that are projecting an increase of 100 basis points or 200 basis points. Just how further can it go?
Really surprised to the upside, and then the threats are still there. And so at least what the Bank of Ghana can do, knowing they didn't take a policy action in January, might be to curtail the potential demand pressures, and then while we wait for government intervention or policy interventions to curtail the supply side really.
Now, 46.5% of Ghanaians surveyed by the Center for Economics, Finance and Inequality Studies on the e-levy say they will stop using mobile money should the e-levy be passed into law. 41.4%, however, say that they will reduce their mobile money transactions should the levy be passed. We're joined via Zoom by the Executive Director of Cephas, Dr. Benjamin Amoah. But for the purposes of discussion, take a listen to a Business Desk report on the key findings from Cephas.
13.5% of the respondents held the view that the e-levy should be passed into law and implemented. However, a small population of 4.9% were of the view that it should be passed after this year. Also, 1,679 of the respondents out of the 2,650 were aware of the e-levy. This implies that much education needs to be done to increase public knowledge and understanding of the levy. The survey also assessed the nation's fiscal position concerns. It came out that 64.6% were categorical that Ghana needs more money. Those who held a contrary view made up of 25.9%, with a position that there is no need to increase government revenue. On the country's rising debt, 91.8% of the respondents are concerned about the increasing debt of the country.
Let's stay a bit longer on this as we're joined via Zoom by the Executive Director of Service, Dr. Benjamin Amoah. Doc, we're grateful that I could join us. What methodology was applied in this research?
Thank you very much. For this research, we use what we call the snowball method through the Google online survey technique. So for such a method, when we send it to you, we also encourage you to send it to individuals in your contact who are most likely to be affected by the electronic levy. So that is basically the technique that we used. And this was also heavily informed by the fact that recently we had COVID, and so movement restrictions and health concern does not suggest the movement around with questionnaires.
Interesting. But is it not common knowledge that the majority of Ghanaians since inception have kicked against the proposed tax measure? What is revealing about these findings?
What is revealing is that the whole discussion that has been going on has received very little academic or scientific evidence to back the discussions that we have been hearing. Many a times is the politicians and the policymakers who have led the charge as far as the discussion of the e-levy is concerned. So we thought it wise to add to the discussion by adding a scientific evidence and a research evidence to the discussion that we've had right from last quarter of last year through the first 3 months of this year.
Interesting. But of course, we have had interactions with the Finance Ministry. A Deputy Finance Minister has, already factored this into their plans, he says, especially when government is expecting an attrition rate of about 24% when the e-levy is passed. How does this, cement this particular research finding of yours?
Out of the 2,650
attrition rate, about 25% difference from what the Finance Ministry had. Again, that should be a point of interest for the Finance Ministry from where we are coming from, because we are having a higher attrition rate than what they have. What they have to do, if they are interested, is to also confirm our figure from what they have to see where the differences are and see what they can do as policymakers to address the apparent attrition rate of 46.5% if the e-levy should be passed.
Interesting. Well, this percentage, 46.5%, have vowed to stop using Momo if the government does not heed to the call, to cancel it. Now, this could have dire consequences on financial inclusion.
Absolutely true, because see, at that point when the levy is passed, there's a choice between holding the cash for normal transaction or using e-levy. At that point, it is not an illegality if you decide to use cash. So it becomes an issue of cost and an issue of the switching cost to move from mobile money or e-levy targeted transactions to using raw cash. As we speak now, the switching cost is so low that individuals can easily move from using electronic-based transaction to a cash-based system, which is free in terms of cost, but for the risk of being attacked. But that side also has greatly been reduced because we have higher denominations of 100 and 200 cedis notes. So it is far easy now to keep a bundle of 100 or 200 cedis in your pocket than when we used to have the 20s and the 50s. So then again, the transaction cost in terms of the bulkiness of carrying the cash has also been greatly reduced. And so you can talk about the risk, but for now, people can move around with heavy cash in their pocket, which will not be easily seen. So again, it poses some level of risk or competition to the e-levy in terms of supporting the attrition rate that individuals who are sensitive to this tax will want to use.
And this brings us to the obvious question. You are a finance expert, Dr. Amoah. So what do we do now? Do we approve the e-levy, or government must halt the approval of this proposed tax?
When we went through the survey, the respondents proposed some alternates that the government can consider. They talked about the issue of cutting down on unproductive expenditure. Unproductive expenditure simply means that if it will cost, let's say, MTN Foundation to construct a 6-classroom block at a particular amount, all things being equal, it should cost the government the same to put out the same structure. If the state is spending more than what a private center initiative like MTN Foundation is spending, that difference is on the unproductive expenditure. And the public is saying that let's try to cut down on that. They also talked about corruption. We should work on corruption. They talked about enforcing property rates. And then one aspect that we have not considered is taxing of treasury income interest, where individuals who invest in treasury instruments, because they are income, the interest is income, some of the respondents are saying that we can look at some of these openings and then see if we can tap into the revenue basket. And once we do that, we will not be too much bothered about whether e-levy is passed or not passed.
Dr. Benjamin Amoah, we're grateful that you could join us with this. He's Executive Director of Cephas there. The minority in Parliament is criticizing management of the Ghana Airports Company over its failure to settle arrears owed ECG, leading to a cut of power supply in parts of the airport. Ranking member on the Roads Committee, Kwame Agboja, accused the management of misplaced priority, arguing that monies used for the purchase of a Christmas tree could have been channeled into paying the debts owed ECG. He also indicated that the committee will summon the minister to the House, the Transport Minister actually, over the current situation.
My brother, if this information turns out to be true, and I have no reason to believe it's not true, that the airport company owes about 40 million Ghana cedi to electricity company. Electricity company, as we all know, is struggling because it's not government alone that is producing power. Other people borrow money, IPPs produce power. So we need to pay them to be able to continue fueling that is in our interest. Ghana Airport Company has come up in the news recently for various reasons. And I expect that if they consume power, they should be able to pay. If they are not able to pay, and to the extent that power has been taken off from at least the administrative building, I want to just thank Ghana Airport Company for at least the electricity company for not shutting down the whole thing, because that would have been a global problem if the whole airport is shut. Yeah, exactly. Right. So at least I commend them for being humane in the way they did it. But I expect Ghana Airport Company to be more diligent in the way they manage things. If you do not have enough money to pay electricity bill, what the hell were we seeing Christmas trees costing about 100,000 cedis at the terminal building? It's completely unnecessary.
It's a misplaced of priorities.
Totally a misplaced priority. It just tells you that both management and board ought to do better in terms of prioritizing their expenditure in these times of hardship. And I'm so appalled and angry about this.
Away from that, French automobile giant Peugeot will this month officially launch their vehicle assembly plant at Tema in the Greater Accra region. Now, this is part of the government's industrialization agenda. The company is expected to assemble not less than 500 vehicles annually. However, with the current regime, Ghana's assembled vehicles policy may be more expensive if government does not implement the initial 25% increase in taxes on all imported vehicles, whilst taking off the value-added tax component. Odilia Ntiamwa spoke to the Chief Executive Officer of Silver Star Auto Limited, Asad Nazir.
As we've seen in other countries like South Africa, like in Morocco, like in Egypt, once the demand picks up, capacity can follow very quickly. There's nothing more we want. Right now, because of semiconductor shortages, because of COVID, there's been a lot of disruption to supply chains across the world. Getting stock is a problem. But we can overcome that. The biggest thing is the demand, like you said.
Yeah.
So
how has all of this, from freight to issues relating to stock, to parts, to all the things that you need to do this manufacturing, how is that going to feed into pricing, and how is that also going to affect assembling?
Yeah, there's a big pressure, a lot of headwinds, a lot of pressure. We haven't even started, we're just starting. Basically, we're still in the infancy stage, and there's a lot of headwinds we're facing. And as a business, we have to try and do the best we can. There are some things we can control, the other things we simply cannot control. For example, freight, shipping lines and oil. And now that the oil prices have almost doubled, we might see even a bigger impact on freight. So these are things that unfortunately are not in our control. But together with our partners, Peugeot back in Morocco and France, we try our best and to try and manage and try and remain competitive. The only good thing I would say is that it's not specific to our vehicles, but it's vehicles in general. It's the whole industry which is facing the same pressures. So in a sense, it's the whole industry and the consumers who face these issues, whichever brand they go to. Now, whichever company can try and minimize that impact will obviously be the successful one.
Tell us about how the continuous change in mind of government relating to benchmark values, currently at 30%. Is this good for business? Is it not? What are you looking at?
I mean, there have been problems with this benchmark value, but I think the government has been taking action. We've heard recently that there's been some agreement with GRA and Ministry of Finance on how to get back to the original values. So it's been a problem. I think we've let, as an association, we've let the authorities know competition is not fair when some people get an advantage and we don't. And it's leveling up the field so that we can all try and succeed fairly.
You have currently, I think you have 2 Peugeot brands out there that you are selling. This is one of them.
This is one. Actually, we have more than 2.
Okay.
So
assembled in Ghana?
Assembled in Ghana. We will be assembling 2 in Ghana. For the time being, this is the first one. This is the 3008 SUV. And the pickup will follow in the second quarter of the year.
What makes this unique?
I think
being assembled in Ghana.
Yeah. Well, it's very fashionable. It's got all the latest features. It's very safe. It also is very economical. So it has a 1.6 engine, but with a very good horsepower, so that as we've already mentioned, oil about 3-4 times. Petrol prices are rising across the world. They are rising in Ghana. Now you start seeing an impact on people. So this is a vehicle that will offer economy as well as comfort and advanced technology.
You were looking basically at issues relating to cost and how gradually, based on freight and other internal factors in Ghana, and of course external factors, manufactured cars either from outside or assembled cars from inside, are going to be expensive. One of the key reasons why we wanted to assemble cars in Ghana was about cost. Is this cost ever going to go away? Looking at how things are currently.
It's going to be difficult, and with government, under the policy, there's some incentives, and there are some other deliverables like increase in duties for non-assembled vehicles. So it's those kind of factors that can turn people and their consumer habits to try and purchase these vehicles.
And if you interview us tomorrow at 1 p.m. on the marketplace, please make a date for that. Well, away from that, the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority is in the process of establishing a standardized manual for training commercial and heavy goods carrying vehicle drivers. The move is to ensure safe transportation of goods across the country and reduce carnage on the roads. Deputy Director in charge of driver testing and training, Kafui Semevo, disclosed this to Joy Business after certifying some driving examiners at his head office in Accra. Here's more.
The examiners program for 50 officers from the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority is part of the roadmap to ensure that a standardized certification is developed for commercial and heavy-duty vehicles. The move will ensure that transported goods reach their destination safely. Deputy Director in charge of driver testing and training, Kafui Semevo, is confident that the standard manual for this category of drivers will promote professionalism on the road.
Now, what we have just done means that apart from these authorized officers, no other person in the authority is allowed to test such category of drivers. But it's an ongoing process. More officers will be trained. The next stage is the standardizing the manual for training of the drivers themselves. And this process will soon end, and then there will be an established base for training those category of drivers. When that is done, it means that anytime anybody is issued a license to drive such category of vehicles, we are sure that that person will have gone through the required models of training before that person is granted a license or the privilege to use our roads. So in short, that is the essence of this.
So in simple. Speaking at the event, Chief Executive of the DVLA, Akwesi Ajimambuzia, reminded heavy goods carting drivers of their critical role in assisting traders and businesses get access to items.
You have to be a very good driver. You need to remain alert for long periods of time, which may be easier said than done. Frankly, it is a tall order for many. You have to have a very keen eye on road safety and regulations, have a complete understanding of that as an examiner. You also have to be able to work independently as an operator, have a responsible attitude, and to be able to cope with stressful and demanding situations. Yours is a call to duty to help with training people who assist with commerce and who do well to protect life and indeed save lives.
The authority is expected to roll out these programs at all DVLA offices in the country.
Let's now turn our attention to how best to spend and invest our money in this episode of Money Tips.
Hi there, welcome to the Money Lab once again. Now, what is a technical analysis with regards to stock analysis? Now, a technical analysis is a trading discipline employed to evaluate stock investments and identify trading opportunities by analyzing statistical trends gathered from trading activity. So we look at what has happened in the past, such as price movements and volume. Now, some people call this historical data analysis. Now, technical analysts believe that past trading activity and price changes, as well as changes in volume, go a long way to influence investor decision making.
And that'll be all for the bulletin, but we'll leave you with international business news, after which Gary L. Smith comes up next with Sports Prime. Just stay with us.
We are 10 days away from the big match, Ghana versus Nigeria. Welcome to the Sport on Prime. I'm Gary L. Smith, and former Nigeria international Daniel Amokachi has shaken the hornet's nest, taking a slight dig at Ghana ahead of the Crunch 2022 FIFA World Cup qualifier playoff, which takes place next week. Now, the Black Stars, as you know, will host the Super Eagles at home before jetting off to Nigeria for the reverse fixture on the 29th at the Moshood Abiola National Stadium. With little over a week to go, Ghana is yet to get full assurances over the stadium to host the game, with the National Sports Authority racing against time to get the Cape Coast Stadium in good condition for the tie. In a social media update today, the former Super Eagles forward did this.
We are at the Moshood Abiola Stadium. We are all ready. Look how beautiful the pitch is. Look how beautiful the stadium is. We are all ready. But some people are still looking for a venue. Some people are under confusion. You know who I'm talking about. We are 360, baby. Ha ha ha. Hallelujah. We are at the Moshood Abiola Stadium. We are all ready. Look how beautiful the pitch is. Look how beautiful the stadium is. We are all ready. But some people are still looking for a venue. Some people are under confusion. You know who I'm talking about. We are 360, baby. Ha ha ha. Hallelujah. We are at the Moshood Abiola Stadium. We are all ready. Look how beautiful the pitch is. Look how beautiful the stadium is. We are all ready.
Tearing social media apart, lots of Ghanaians have been commenting on it, and we'll be doing that pretty shortly after we do a bit of boxing and so on. So in boxing, Patrick Alote will clash with Tanzania's Hamisi Maya for the WBO Africa Super Welterweight bout, which comes off here in Accra on the 26th of this month. It is a make or break for the 31-year-old Ghanaian boxer. Asare Bedi Akon, my colleague, has more in this report.
Patrick Alote has been given an opportunity to reclaim the WBO Africa Super Welterweight title, but standing in between him and glory is Tanzanian boxer Hamisi Maya. The 31-year-old Ghanaian boxer, who has been training in earnest for the March 26 Kabek Boxing Fight Night, is ready to go head-to-head with the Dar es Salaam-born boxer nicknamed Hitman the Lionheart.
I know he's a very good boxer and he has prepared well for this bout. I've also prepared very well for this bout, and I think that night will be a very fantastic night for both of we the boxers and also the undercards also as well. I don't have much to say, but to plead on the whole Ghana boxing fans that I'm really excited of their support that they have been giving me since day one, and because of that, I would like to beg them to come in the Anames on 26 December to come and support Patrick Alote. I'm still the Patrick Alote they know. Age is just a number.
CEO of Kabek Boxing Promotions, Ivan Bruscujo, is expecting Patrick Alote to live up to expectations.
We have been in the boxing fraternity for some time now, and we have done the best that we can to make sure that we push Ghana to the world stage. As he rightly said again, with regards to Patrick Alote and other boxers that we had in our folds. It's unfortunate that things didn't go as expected. However, that never broke our back. We are still on the journey that we commenced. 26th of this very month, we'll be staging another spectacular bout, which will be featuring Alote, Patrick Alote, as well as Emmanuel Quay, and other supporting bouts, which of course will enhance this very 26th bout that we'll be holding here in Kabek, here in Idlewild Event Center.
Former GBA president and current WBO Africa representative Samuel Kaptan has backed Alote to beat Hamisi Maya.
I think this is going to be another cracker for Patrick Alote. I term it to be Sankofa. He must go and bring it, win this title, so that would be a stepping stone, as our Honorable said, to the world title. And this time, we all should support Kabek promotion, support Patrick Alote, the trainer, each one of us to put heads together and help him together, help him to go and win the Golden Fleece, so that he will bring glory to Ghana. To me personally, I don't think Patrick Alote is finished, because I've been hearing from quarters, some places that, oh, Patrick Alote is finished, Kabek should discard him and blah, blah, blah. No, he still got the venom in him. In our Ghana adage, tetete bo kele, means the scorpion never get old with the tail, the sting. You know, as the scorpion is old, still he's got the venom.
In order to ensure sporting disciplines in the country secure sponsorship, the National Sports Authority is to introduce and adopt a federation policy for or to corporate Ghana. The board chairman of the NSA is Seth Pam.
We have made it an annual event now since 2017. You know, we've made it, and this is the fifth one that we've done. And we did it in line with the Jubilee celebrate, the 65th independence celebration of the country. And it is really something that we're going to sustain it every year. We are trying to even involve corporate Ghana in terms of sponsorship, you know, to come on board. Not only to the athletics issue, but also to other sporting disciplines. You know, we will be knocking on the doors of the corporate Ghana to come on board to support, so that we can take most of the youth off the street through sports. You know, and it's something that we want every Ghanaian to buy into, every corporate Ghana to buy into, and even come and adopt a sport, come and adopt a sport discipline. It's a drive we are going to push forward so that, people are interested in golf, some are interested in table tennis, some are interested in boxing. I mean, they will come on board and adopt these federations and support so that in totality, we can have a total annual sporting events coming on every year.
Is that part of your strategy to reposition sports in the country?
I think this is just the drive we are going by. We have said that sports is a discipline that can take the youth off the street. It's a discipline that, if well invested and sustained, can contribute to our national GDP. Because people will be competing outside, and once they begin winning medals, I believe they will bring in their awards home, and this will contribute into our national reserves. So it is something that we'll be doing in totality, and to reposition sports as a drive force for mobilizing youth for national development.
Thanks for staying with us on Prime Sports. Gary Al Smith here. We continue with rugby, and the national male and female teams are fine-tuning preparations for next month's Sevens World Cup final shootouts in Tanzania and Tunisia. We have more details in the following report.
The national rugby team, the Eagles, are 100% focused on securing a ticket to their first ever Sevens World Cup, and they have left no stone unturned in their preparation for the final shootout scheduled for next month. The male rugby team, after their heroics in the pre-World Cup qualifier in Kumasi last year November, will be competing in Uganda for an enviable place in the 7th World Cup. To ensure the team is in good physical shape for the tournament, the Ghana Rugby Football Union, headed by Herbert Mensah, has introduced a series dubbed the Barbarians Sevens. Head coach of the Eagles, Love Mokuzerera, has underscored the importance of the weekly competition.
So as you can see, we are using this tournament as a scale or as a way to see those guys who can also raise their hands if they can play national squad, and also the guys who have already been playing in the national squad. We are taking this opportunity as well to work on our fitness, match fitness, before we get in the tournaments. If you look at previous tournaments, we normally get in these tournaments, normally the day one, first game, second game, we struggle because of match fitness. But this time around, we are trying to work on that so much that when you get in the tournament, we start off on high because the guys will be properly ready for contact. Because normally the most important thing is contact-related fitness. So we normally lack that on the first day. But we are preparing for that, even for both men and women. That's why we are playing these matches.
Member of the male rugby team, Percy Christian Adams, is happy with the work ethic of his colleagues.
You know, in rugby, we don't joke because it's two kind of forces coming together to collide or pass or do things together. So maybe if you limit your force and the other person, the opponent forces come and add to yours, maybe you can get hurt or something like that. So you have to make it competitive. Play as hard as you can, because what you do now on the field is what you play. The training you do is what you play on the field. So if you train slow, you play slowly. If you train hard and you put in your maximum effort, when it's game time, you do the same thing.
The female rugby team will also be in action next month. And after taking West Africa by storm, their main target is to book a historic ticket to the Women's 7th World Cup. Here is Dorothy Osuansa.
Each target is to qualify for the World Cup and the Commonwealth Games, and then we are trying hard as possible to get girls, get boys, train hard, get our fitness level up there to where the other teams, we will meet them and then we'll play to their level and then we'll win and come back to Ghana. Very impressed, because since we started week one, we saw our disadvantages and what we are supposed to do and what we are not supposed to do. And as ongoing, our coach is talking to us on things that we are supposed to do and not to do. So we are trying to do this every week to see our mistakes. But by the time we go to the tournament, we know our mistakes and then we correct them and then we play better there.
The Eagles are keen on soaring to higher heights, and only lack of hard work can clip their wings.
Right, in the Champions League, it's Manchester United who are at home against Atletico Madrid. Game started with a lot of back and forth, but at halftime, it's Atleti who are leading by a 1-0 on the day and 2-1 on aggregate. The goal was by Renan Lodi. Right, let's get some reactions of social media to what you are saying about this so far then. Daniela Kimfewa, he says, Man U don't they collect them loading. Anyway, Man U know they win Spanish teams. We all know this. Yeah, he's alluding to the fact that United's record against Spanish teams is not the best. And this one is in French. Let's go up. In response to Mr. Marconi, he says, Man U is going home. Please go up again. Daure Venmark says, this is a way better Man United team. Good first half, even with being a goal down. And Renan Lodi gives Madrid the lead over Manchester United. And so the pictures of Cristiano, who is starting today, said, I remember I said it the last time Man U versus Atletico Madrid played. I mentioned that Simeone unleashed an unknown player, and now Manchester United is suffering for it. Pierre Correa says, I'm a Man U fan and all, but please stop being so biased. That is clearly not a foul. Elanga literally fell on his own when they showed the replay. This is from a Nigerian. It's Abimbola says, Man U carry their problem for hand, put Chelsea problem for head. Maguire 0, David De Gea 0, Team Spirit 0, Pass 0, just marking, and you all saying trash about Thomas Tuchel. That's it for the sport for today. Tomorrow we do more in the build-up to Ghana versus Nigeria, and we have a special feature on squad announcements of Black Stars and how it splits the fabric of Ghana football. I'm Gary Al Smith. Thank you very much for your time.